what we will do now is, before we start introducing the cubes, I want to hide this because I don't need to slow down the system by just pressing hide, and it's very fast now. And I already prepared some cubes. If I go to the selection set here, I have some cubes, and as you can see, can look at them from perspective. They are just simple cubes and they have some noise. If I will just open the group, each one of them has some noise, and we can randomize the new noise by introducing different seed here as example. And of course we can just randomize other factors here, but I added also some optimization. If you look here, before the optimization I have a lot of faces, and after the optimization I have less faces, and we can read the number here by seeing before and after. And as you can see, I have less vertices. So these are the cubes. If you notice, this is the ground plane with which everything gonna be colliding with the liquids and the cubes. And I already initiated things by having all these small cubes under the ground. But what I will do inside Tyflow, that in the first event I don't want them to collide with this, or even to consider that there is any collision object here. I want them just to feel free to fall down or do whatever they want. Then I want to start the simulation. Remember, we started the simulation for the liquids in the frame number 3, and for the cubes I don't want them to start immediately. I want the wave to form its shape, and I can just unhide it to see things. So if I will go to this frame 4, 5, now I have the liquid moving, and I want them to start moving from like 4 as example, and when they reach here at maybe 6 or 7, the wave shape is already established. I don't want them to collide with it in early stage. I want to see the beauty of the liquid before. Also, if you notice, if I will look at it from top view, and I can hide this again, I didn't put much here in front of the bottles because I don't want them to corrupt again the shape of the wave, but I put a lot here in the back. What I want is to have more of these back and just a little of them here. Also, when I initiate everything, as you'll see, I will push them up using some wind, not just gravity or other forces, but wind, which if they will collide with these bottles, they will try to find their ways to go up because the wind will be always affecting them. So that's for start, and let's create some Tyflow. So what I will do is that I'll go to create panel, and here we can find Tyflow. In the top view we press anywhere and just introduce the Tyflow. If I will go to modify panel, I can open the editor, and here where all the magic happens. Jumping to the camera view, all I need to do is to convert all these cubes into some dynamic objects, which we call here like rigid objects or particles, as at the beginning, physical particles. I can do that using this node, which is birth object, and in it all I need to do is to pick up all these particles or cubes. First let's select them, then we can add the selection here, and we have them all here. We don't need to change much here, except I can just change this into 4, means the simulation will start from 4. Nothing gonna happen now, and actually we are seeing the original cubes, not the actual particles. To see the actual particles, all I need to do is to hide these, and here are the particles or the cubes, but they are presented by this display node, which is saying small dots. Let's change this into geometry, and already I have the geometry. Of course they will be created at 4, so before that there are no geometry. Now what I will do next is I can introduce or convert them into physical objects by introducing a new node, which is physics shape. Let's just find it. It should be here. Yes, this is physics shapes, and I can just put it here. Remember, just make sure it's green so it doesn't replace one of the nodes here. So it automatically gonna be convex hull, means if I will display this, these are, jump to side view, the presentation for the collision object is a cube, as you can see. And I don't want it to be more like here. There is a gap difference between the convex hull and the cube, but I don't care about that much, because now what I'm doing is that I'm creating this physical shape which gonna collide with bottles and maybe will collide back with the ground. But for the liquid, I will introduce the liquid interactivity or collision with these cubes by putting these into the interact or interaction layout in the liquid itself. Also, we will introduce another node which is should be here. It's the physics fluid, which gonna make sure that we have a mutual interaction between the two. So now all I need to do is to not change anything here. Maybe I will change something here later. As example, I can change the friction because I don't want them to jump much, but for now let's leave them as they are. Next, what I will do is that I don't want them to be all aligned with the board, but I need to rotate them a little, so I can go to rotation. Let's see, where's the rotation? This is rotation, and let's just randomly rotating them, as you can see here. If I will move the time slider now, I will see that they are, if I will deactivate this, they are going like this. And the reason for that is that if I go to Tyflow to modify button down in the physics, I have a gravity already which gonna drag them down, but I have a ground collider which I can remove, and that will make sure that they are free to go down. Now they are fast, going fast, and remember later we may need to change the gravity or even to retime the scene totally, because I don't want them to go that fast. But anyway, now let's keep them as they are and continue adding some nodes. Like we have the rotation, and now we need to introduce some force. The force gonna push them up. So what we will do now is that I will go to forces, and yes, this is force, and I'll bring it here. The force, I don't want to add any external force. All I need to do is to depend on the forces inside Tyflow. And what we can do now, let's just display it again. What we can do now is change this into like 1 as example, and introduce some forces here like 1. And of course I don't want them to move on the X, so I will just deactivate this, or 0 watt. So now they are staying in one place, which is here, but they are not moving. But what I can do now is I can increase this, and they will be moving up. So they will start moving at the 4 up, which is good, but I don't want them to move all together at once. So also I don't want them to always have this wind pushing them up. Sometimes I need to deactivate it and have them falling down. So we can animate this force, but let's introduce also a little turbulence here. I will just add some turbulence, and I will change it, yeah, just turbulence. Let's introduce some turbulence by maybe 3. So we have random movement now. They will be just breathing out like this. And also I can just introduce some frequency, because I don't want them to be not controlled or just randomly picked the frequency from the system. I need to control everything as much as I can, and that's it. Now what is happening is that they are not colliding with this ground, and eventually when they fell down I need them to collide with this ground. So I want to introduce some condition which says that I want them to start moving up, then in a certain stage I want this wind to stop affecting them, then they will be going down, and then and only then they will be colliding with the ground. Also, I need to make sure that they collide with the bottle now. So what I can do is that I can introduce also some kind of collision here, but I don't think it's necessary if I will start considering that in the next event. So this is what we'll do next. To move to the next event or to change the condition now, how they will move, we will use the property test, and it is here, so I can just bring it here. And then this, all I need to do is to test their position, maybe in Z, and I need to see greater. So if they will cross certain distance here or height, I want them to move to the next event where I'll have gravity and they will be falling down, and maybe they will be colliding with this ground and of course with these objects. Actually, all I need from this event is to push them up a little and give them the energy to jump. Then immediately I want to just cut that down and enforce them to go down with the gravity. So all I need to do is to introduce the value which is in centimeters because its position is Z, and I can give it some randomization. And if I will go here, nothing gonna happen because I didn't even pipe it to another event. But what I can do is that I can copy this one, put it here, and now pipe it here, and here I can change this to geometry and change the color maybe to blue. And as you can see, they will be created, and whenever they cross this limit which we said here is 7, I can even make it less, but I think it's good. They will be jumping up, and basically they are all physical shapes, but they are not pushed by wind anymore because they are not having the same force here. They will go down and collide, but there is nothing to collide with. So let's introduce some collision, and we can do that with same node, which is like physics node. It's collision. Put it here, and in the collision node we can pick up the object we want these particles to collide with, such as the ground and these petals. So now if you see, they are jumping, then they are going back to collide with the ground. And the amount of push or the pushing we want, it's just introduced in these few frames before they convert into or move into the next event. And we can control that totally by changing the strength. Actually, we'll animate this factor to make sure that we have something very customized or shaped the way we want. Now there is no interaction between these cubes and the fluid at all, and what we can do is we can introduce a new node, but let's just move it a little and see. If you can see, the cubes are moving much. I know the liquid will delay them, but look at these cubes, they are moving really much. So what we can do is we can change their interaction with the ground by just increasing this number. The restitution is like a bouncing, so basically it's the energy kept inside these particles which we can reduce also. So I can go here, make sure that I don't have much, so I reduce this into 0.2 and 1 by 1, and here in the collision I can do the same also here for them, we can also change this number. I can just make sure that it does have a little place to move. This is first, and when we introduce the fluid and the interaction with the fluid, there will be, of course, don't worry about this one, because we can just change their basic position or change whatever and they will move right. As example, I can go here to the wind and reduce it a little. So, and eventually we'll increase the steps also for the simulation to make sure that we have something decent. But that's the beginning of the thing. All we need to do is to introduce the fluid, physics fluid. As you can see, there's not much calculations happening. And if we introduce the physics, let's put it between the two here, we need to unhide. Go to the scene here. We need to unhide the liquid. And as you can see, let's take the name of the liquid here, container, and let's make sure that in the output we have the velocity activated both for the grid and for the particles, and that's what we need. So I can put the name of the liquid container here, and pressing that button, this button, it will set up the container in a way which ensure that it's getting the right kind of information which he can pass to the particles, such as the pressure and velocity and other small pieces of codes. So yes, and that's it. Now if you will try to move the time slider, it will be slower because it's taking in consideration the movement of the liquid. Of course, that means the liquid is affecting the cubes, but the cubes are not affecting the liquids at all, because in this stage we need to resimulate to have all the effect as needed. So what we'll do now, we will just adjust these or see what every one of them means before we resimulate everything again. But let me just hide this liquid. We already know that it's there, it's affecting everything, and it's consider or think of it like velocities. It's just a group of velocities which push these or put some pressure on those cubes when they are inside the liquid. So first, the fluid density. The fluid density defines the fluid mass basically, and let's think about it as how heavy or light the liquid is. So if we put if the cube is wood as example, it will float on the water. One here should be introducing 1000 kilogram per cubic meter, but I don't know exactly if this is physically right or not. So to consider that, or to take that in consideration, if I will change this to, I will see that the particles or the cubes gonna change a little, because now fluid density is high, they will be floating more and they will not be able to penetrate the fluid inside or live inside the fluid. They will be just floating immediately. So that's what this means. But that will take in consideration also the fact that there is a mass for these cubes. If we will go here, we'll go down, you will see that we have a mass, just one. And we can just also activate this. If we'll activate this, it will change again. And what it says is that based on the volume of each cube, we will have certain mass. So I can deactivate this, but this what this means. Also we have the velocity here, which if I will go, it's like a multiplication. The liquid has velocities, and these velocities as basically they are the ones which push these cubes up or down. So if I will say 0.1, I don't want this liquid to push these cubes much, so I'm taking 0.1 value of the velocities introduced by the liquid or the fluid, which can affect these cubes. If I increase it like 1, I will wait a little until it calculates, and I think it will push them more. But You can just keep it little because I think that the shape of the jump is controlled more. Also, the pressure is the same. We have pressure element inside the liquid or the fluid. This is a multiplication of it, so I can just put it as it is, or I can even reduce it because I don't want the liquid to affect the cubes as much as it is doing with one. Again, this is like something you can change and see what I'm mentioning, the meaning of each one of those, because that will affect the total animation or movement of the cubes. The last thing here is the buoyancy. And the buoyancy, it's a force which is introduced inside the liquid, which is gonna push everything inside the liquid up. It's like against the gravity. So if we increase this, means when the cube is inside the liquid, it will be pushed up with this amount of force. We can always reduce this. So whenever I'm reducing this, everything gonna be calculated, recalculated again. Let's wait for it. It's relatively very fast. Of course, we can introduce any value here, but you know, eventually we will get the shape of explosion or impact we need, and based on that we can just introduce some numbers. So the final thing is the drag. The drag is a drag as it is, so it means that also their movement inside the liquid can be dragged, not outside the fluid. And I think we can increase this as example like 5, so we will see the effect, how the liquid is affecting them. But again, artistically we need to change and see how everything is moving. What we are seeing here is that the liquid is affecting these cubes, but the cubes are not affecting the liquid, and we need to take that in consideration when we resimulate the liquid and reshape everything in an artistic way. But again, all these are animated and I can animate all of them. So as example, I can just start from here by setting up all the values at the 0 frame. I can say, okay, I don't need to change anything in the fluid density in this stage, but maybe in like here, when everything is down, I can do this simply. Just waiting for this to update. Of course, I will not see any key here because I'm not selecting actually the Tyflow. So if we want to see the keys, all you need to go is to go select the Tyflow and see the keys. Here are the keys. So I didn't change anything here, but we can go to certain frame, like let's say here, and reduce this. Basically, I can introduce like a value. Of course, it's recalculating, so I can just deactivate this so it doesn't take time like this, and I can introduce 0.5. Now the liquid is not affecting the cubes much because I want them to be stable and sitting down. But yeah, you can animate any factor here, and also I can animate this as well. So as example, the velocity, I just can keep it up like 1 here. So let's say 1, and I can keep it all the way 1 like here, and in the same time where everything should be going down, I can just decrease it to 0.2. I don't want the liquid to affect them much. Also the pressure, let's just 0.7, go to here and keep it as it is. Sorry, here 0.7, keep it as it is till here, and after that I want to reduce it so it will be 0.2, and the liquid is not affecting anything, like the cubes are stable on the ground. The buoyancy, we can do the same, so I can just introduce any value, and which is around. Now all these values are We can change them whenever we want. I don't want water to push them up, so I will reduce this, and that's it basically. So now we have some numbers which gonna be reduced after 20, which if I will activate everything, things gonna be calculated. What I'm doing now is that I will assume that they will be jumping here with full effect from the water. Now the water is affecting them, but when they land here, I don't want them to move much or get affected by the water. This is the only thing which can affect them because they are inside the water in this stage. That's it. The other thing I can account for is how the force gonna act. If we will go here and animate this factor, why not? Because we can just control it. So I can go to 0 and I will consider this as 0. I don't want it to be affecting anything here. Actually, there's no particles in this stage. And in, let's say, now from here, let's say from, or 4, I can just go to 4. But anyway, I can go to 7 as example, where everything, you know, is going down. No, I want to have some force here. So let's say something like 5, just a little less. Let's go back to here. Yeah, that's it. Now they will be jumping up, but some of them, as you notice, stayed down. So not all of them are jumping up. I want them all to jump more. So we can just move to, as example, 33 or 40. Let's just wait for this to update, like here, and you can introduce some number like 15. What I'm saying is that the force is increasing all the way here, although there is no much particles to get affected by it, but at the beginning it's just going up. So it's going up, more cubes are affected by it. Now they are going down. Of course, none of these are affected by the force anymore, so no need to do anything, although I can just go to any frame here and just kill it. 0. That's it. Of course, all these numbers have no meaning now, except when we do the simulation again and see how that will be happening, how everything is gonna be interacting with the cubes. So if I look at it from the camera view and see how everything is moving, it looks nice. Maybe I need to do something. If you look here, you will see that they are moving fast. So it maybe in 20 frames everything is down, which is less than 1 second, which I don't like. I need them to stay more in the air because I have like 180 frames to cover, and I need to introduce some slow motion. Remember, we introduced this kind of slow motion to the liquid, so maybe I will need to re-time this, or I can slow it now. So let's do that. The way we can slow that is that we can go to Tyflow, the time scale here, and we can just maybe I would say 0.5, and you can see that they are here. So what's happening is that now I think the force we applied, the wind force, is still affecting them even after this, and that's very good. Now we can, yeah, that seems good. We can just keep it. Now after that they will be going down, and see, still I'm in 40 frames and some of them are still up. That's it. So I can just see their movement, and it seems really decent and good. Not all of them I need just As example, this one is stuck here, and that's very nice. And they are all above the ground, so no problem. And they will be covered by the liquid. I think this is nice. Maybe we can change one or two things. Maybe I can go to the force here, and I can just increase the force in this stage to 4. I need them to be pushed more. So let's see. It's moving very fast. That's nice. Although I like, yeah, we can just change this back maybe to how it was, and we have enough force. Now that's what we want here. I don't think we need much more things to do here. Maybe we always can go here and increase some of these like the sub steps, but I think everything is going well. But again, if you think you can enhance the velocity or the position, you can just go and increase the general steps or individually enhance this. But for now, this is all I need to do, and I don't think I need to change anything else. The steps we need to do now is to run the simulation with the liquid, and that will make sure that the liquid can affect these cubes. But before we do that, we need to bake the animation of these cubes. But what I will do is, beside these cubes, which are really nice but they are not much, I need to introduce chunks of cubes which gonna spread everywhere. So let's do that. The way we can do that is exactly like we do with usual particles, particle flow, by introducing spawn. Yeah, this is it. We can just put it down here, and what I want is that all these cubes, while they are traveling, they are producing some trails. So what I can do is that I can deactivate this one, which is the fluid, to speed up things, and I can just see how everything is going. Then I can run the fluid. So here all I need to do is to go by travel. Let's just go here, make sure that we are not introducing really big numbers. So now they are in the same event, and look, it takes time until it updates, which we don't want. Actually, what we want is to move these into a new event. Now the new event can be just a new shape. Let's just start by introducing a shape, which is just a library of possible shapes of the chunks. This is shape. It should be as simple as this. So let's put it here. And for this shape, we can go down and see we have 3D shapes which we can choose from. Chunk round is good. It has really a low amount of faces and it's good. I can connect this by spawn, and until now we don't have much really particles in this stage to see what's happening. So we have to be careful about this because Tyflow is still a beta version, so it can stop or it can break down, so we need to save always. And now for the spawn we have one step, which is 1 centimeters, and we'll see now when we animate everything how everything's happening. I'll move this along here. As you can see, the particles are moving ahead from the particles, which I think I like, but maybe we need to display them first to see how they look by going to geometry. I think they are so small, which we can adjust for sure. we may need to introduce some scale, and of course we need to change this into absolute and see if their volume is big. So we need to reduce this, maybe 40 is good. And also what we can do is randomize their volume, some variation, and that's it. I think these are nice. Maybe we'll increase their number by going to spawn, and here we can say 2. Each one gonna produce, or they will be offspring 2, and we can go down and change some values here. As example, I would say I want them to inherit 100%. I want them to be ahead, and I can introduce some randomness in their movement by increasing the divergence. That's nice. Just you have to notice that they affect the actual cube's movement. We have to take that in consideration. For the scale, I can go here to scale, and I can just randomize this also. So we have double randomization, and that's it. Now let's jump here and start building the rest of this network. First, we need to make sure that they collide with the ground, because if we'll continue here, they will be going down, then they will just go through the ground. So all we need to do is to introduce the collision, or we need them to collide with the bottles. So why not copying this one? Copy, and we'll just paste it here. I can bring it down, as example, here or here, and now we have them colliding with everything, including the bottles, and landing on the ground after everything. And that's it. That's it. That's it. It looks nice. Now we need to make sure that anyone, like if any one of them moves far away from what we expect them to go, that they don't just continue going down like this one. That's simply can be adjusted by introducing a condition, which we can go to property again, test, and we can put it down here, and here we can say Z position, and the test value is 0. We can add some randomization, but this is it. So now even if they will go, we need to tell it what to do with them. So I want to delete them actually. So let's say delete, and we introduce a new event where we can connect it to this one, and for this delete event it will delete everything, so I don't need really to see anything. That's it. Test the property, and it will be deleted if it will be less than 0. I think now we have everything we need. The only few things we may need to add is mesh. So as you see here, these are particles. They even not seen by other objects in the max. As example, the fluid in terms of colliding with the fluid. Now everything is happening through this node, which is physics fluid, but I need them to collide as a mesh. So one of the things we can do is that we can introduce a mesh, or convert them into meshes by just, let's go to M, and that's it. Yeah, mesh. Let me just go to 0 and introduce this into all the events here as example. Don't need to change anything. As well, I can introduce another one here, and these are the only 2 events I care for. For this one, I don't need really have them affecting or get affected by the liquid in this stage. I need them after they just go up. These are the two events. Of course, I can adjust the numbers later the way I think is good, like increase the force of the wind to make sure that they are moving the way. All the parameters there, you can play however you think you should. Now I need to consider them inside the fluid system. Let's do that next. The way we can do that is that we go to the fluid system and we can simply go here down to interaction. For some reason they are deleted. I will just add everything again. So I will add the buttons. And I will add the Tyflow. If I will go here, I should find Tyflow, and that's it. Now if I will simulate, I should expect everything to move according to the settings I have. Of course, we will need to just bring this down a little in terms of grid, like decrease it to 1 or twice. Run the simulation, see the movement of the cubes, adjust the cubes and the fluid node, physics fluid, to get the right kind of movement. Also, we can, if we want, we can exclude these particles, which are the small particles, from the interaction with the liquid, which I don't recommend, because Tyflow as well as Phoenix FT can handle that really good. The way you can deactivate that is by deactivating the mesh. That's it. This part will not be considered in the collision, but I don't think we need to do that. I have been running that on this computer and everything is amazing, and this again very simple computer. I will run the simulation and I will bring everything back again here so you can see the result. So I went ahead, I ran the simulation in a high resolution actually, because I wanted to see the results. After I tweaked these a little, I didn't really tweak them at all, just few settings. But anyway, the liquid was pushing these cubes ahead. That's why they are going up much, like as you can see here. And this is the kind of movement or animation I expect. There's something extremely important to take in consideration. I'm running this, but the right thing is to do, because it's cached, the right thing to do is, let me just choose anything just to make sure that it doesn't always change the display. The important thing is to do, whenever you finish the simulation here, that means all these cubes and the Tyflow is cached. But if you move this slider like this again here and change anything, the cache gonna change. So their position and their interaction with the liquid gonna change, because basically what's gonna happen is that Tyflow will recalculate everything again. To save our work, to make sure that we have everything right, all we need to do is to export the animation after the simulation directly. So we will be here, and all we need to do is to introduce export particles. And the export particles, we don't need to change much here, actually nothing, just keep it the cache. But before we do that, if we introduce any kind of material, you can. I don't think you need here in this stage. This is the TY cache, and you just browse this. We go up, and we to the cache files. It's preferred to keep everything in one place, so we will say TY cache. And let's just keep the name as it is, because it's here by default, TY cache. Let's save it, and this is the amount. I can start from 4, because 4 is the first frame I will be creating these particles, and all I need to do is to run the generate cache. So after I run this, the Tyflow will create cache for me actually. I will run this now, and as you can see, it will go through everything and it will create the cache. If I didn't move my slider, which I did not move my slider, it will be much faster. But what I did is that before I open the scene, I actually did export these particles. Automatically, what's gonna happen is that Tyflow will create the cache and it will put it in the scene. So what I will do is that I will deactivate this, so there's no cubes now, and automatically you will see that Tyflow gonna introduce these into the scene. I will unhide them and their name will be ty cache. That's it. So I have the cubes now. Let's just see exactly their movement and analyze it, so we make sure that they are interacting with the liquid and everything is going fine. And if you need to change something, we can change it in this stage. As you can see here, the cubes are up. I don't really know if they are interacting with the liquid or not. If I will go more, and because they are cached, there's no calculation for Tyflow. Look at here, everything is going really fine. They are interacting with everything and they have been pushed by the liquid. This is what I absolutely know, because their animation, if you remember at the beginning, their animation wasn't going up. They weren't going really much up. They were going just a little, but because the liquid is pushing up, it pushed them much more. And during that, they are absolutely interacting with the liquid, and I can see that in the details there is no penetration. They are touching the liquid, and as example here you can see that. And when they land, they will land and they will form a position for themselves here, so they will create even better splash. Look at this. And because we set up our liquid in a good way, which is a realistic way with the bottles, they will be interacting with liquid exactly as expected. Now the buoyancy and all these settings gonna play a big role in defining if the cube's gonna jump up or down or do whatever when they interact with the liquid. That's why I decreased their effect when we go with the time slider ahead, so they will be stable and just landing on the ground. Look at this. This is very nice. This is exactly what I expected. And actually we can do just one preview and see everything. I will look at it from the camera here. I will do one preview just by going here and creating one preview, and I will come back. Now we have this preview and I did 100 frames while that simulation was 82. Just I stopped at 82. Let's analyze it and see what problems we can fix. Actually it's good and I think it's decent. We can create more chaotic movement for the liquids, like bigger, and I think the cubes are doing well. They are good in terms of slow. They don't rush and just finish their movement in the first second, before the first second, as we saw. Also they land good and they don't have much of movement after they land, just to know they lay down. Absolutely we can increase the resolution of the liquid. Also we need to extend the liquid to this border and back, just to make sure it's covering everything. For the interaction between the cubes and the liquid, it's so good. I think we have exactly the kind of interaction we need. There is no any kind of penetration, so the cubes are not penetrating the bottles or anything, and the small chunks of ice are not there. They are there, but they are so small. We can see them in some frames. As example, here they are, but they are small. We can increase their volume, and that's it. I think that could be everything. I like so much how the water is doing these long trails, and in the same time it's just we introduce just little amount of viscosity and surface tension, so the behavior should be a water, because if you increase these factors sometimes it looks like more like very viscous liquid, sometimes it looks like a milk, or just sometimes like a honey. We don't need to go there for sure, and that's why I'm just introducing very small amount maybe here at the beginning to control this and to make sure that we have this kind of curve. Everything is connected, but we have the tips all just breaking down, still here connected until we have the final frame. So I think this is it for the Tyflow as well as for the liquid. All we need to do is to increase the amount of chunks, maybe decrease the gravity a little, so allow it to be chaotic more. But I think when we increase the volume of the container, the final container, that will fix things even more. Don't need to do much. That's it. And let's jump now and build a procedural water drop system, because as you can see now there are not much of these drops sticking to the buttons, and I can just use the wet procedure, wet particle procedure, to create the drops. It will just help me to create some material to make sure, or to look, or to enforce texture or the material of the buttons to look like it wet. I don't think that will be much useful here. What we gonna do is to build a system which is totally controllable, customizable, and which enable us to introduce some fixed drops and some sliding drops, and that will be a very flexible system. So let's do that next.